Hello, my name is Kate Dittrich, and I am an employment attorney working with Selden Company. This seminar is a short presentation on leaves of absence for crime victims. We're going to first start by talking about the different relevant laws that we've seen, not so that you can memorize these laws, but so that you know when these types of leaves may come into play and when to go to human resources. We're going to talk specifically about Selden's policies and what they cover and how employees are protected under those policies. And then we're going to talk about practical ways that managers can talk to employees about these types of leaves of absence. The background of relevant laws. We are seeing these types of laws pop up all over the United States. And since Selden is a multi-state employer, we are looking at the various states that protect some type of leave for crime victims. So a lot of these laws protect what's called sick and safe. So they say that that employees can take time away to care for their own illness or the illness of a family member, or because they are victims of domestic violence or another type of crime. So some states separate out these laws and have just a um, sick paid time protection, and then as well as a safe time. So, for example, Illinois has a VESA law that's Victims Economic Security and Safety Act, and that specifically covers crime victim leave. That covers domestic violence, sexual violence, gender violence, or any type of crime under that Illinois law. Selden's policies match that separation. So Selden has provisions related to medical issues and sick time, which is another training that we have to cover those absences. And then we also have the separate victims of crime policy that's divided out. Under the laws of most states, they allow employer to obtain documentation of the need for leave for crime victims. But employees are not required to request the leave in writing, and they may do that verbally and still have protection. And they may be able to provide documentation after the fact. So, especially in an emergency situation, we don't want any managers hounding employees for documentation. Get the information to first see if the employee is entitled, go to HR, and then documentation can happen after the fact if there are emergency circumstances. Relevant laws also allow for safe leave to be taken up to a year after the crime is committed. So we want you to keep that in mind, just that it may be a long time between the crime and the time that the person actually needs the leave, and that is okay under both the relevant laws and Selden's policy. So again, as managers, you are not required to know or memorize the various state laws on victim protection. However, what you are required to do is recognize, oh, this may be protected, and then get it to human resources for their assessment. So human resources will look at and say, okay, this employee works in this state has this type of protection, or our policy provides this type of protection. And so we're going to grant the employee the leave under either the state law or the Selden policy. So let's get into Selden policies and what that protects specifically. Selden's policies mirror the most protective of state laws. So we've looked at to say, okay, what does each state protect? What is the most broad protections? And then we've turned that into your policies so that the Selden policies are most comprehensive, protecting both medical leave and safe time for employees. So specifically, your standard operating procedure number 230 provides for leave for reasons related to domestic violence, sexual assault, harassment, stalking, or any other crime that's committed against the employee or the employee's family or household member. Okay. This may be a continuous leave. So, for example, something may have happened to the employee where they need 3 weeks off or they need 12 weeks off. Those are assessed on a case by case basis. So we'll look at what the need is and see if that can be granted or if the employee is entitled for it to be granted. And then intermittent just means, okay, I need to take a few hours off here, a few hours off there, or to work on a reduced schedule for a temporary time period while the employee takes care of their needs. So more specifically, here is what these types of leave can be taken for. So first, to seek legal or law enforcement assistance. This may be things like filing a police report or going to seek a restraining order. Anyone who has done that knows that it takes a significant amount of time. An employee may not even know where to turn. They may not know where the courthouse is or how to go through filing with a restraining order or harassment protection order. And so those efforts take a lot of time. So this law and this policy protect employees to do that, take the time that they need to file reports or engage in any sort of law enforcement action, even including hearing dates and trial dates. It also provides time for the employee to seek diagnosis or treatment if they have been physically or mentally injured, or if their family member or household member has been physically or mentally injured and they need to seek treatment for that. Obtaining any type of counseling or social services. So if they need to go to a rape crisis center or a housing shelter, anything like that will be covered as well. And then to participate in any type of safety planning, relocation, or take other protective actions. There is some provisions of various laws that say employees must advise their employer if there's a change of address, change in phone number. Those things happen often if there is a situation where someone's been a victim of a crime and needs to change their contact information accordingly. So leave is provided if either the employee is the victim or a family or household member is the victim. And a family or household member includes the employee's spouse, domestic partner, minor children, parents, adults related within the first degree, and then other adults who reside with the employee. So basically anyone that lives in the house, or if they are part of the employee's immediate family, they're going to be covered under this law. How to talk to employees about leave. A lot of times, this is a very difficult situation. It may be a very emotional situation, especially if the employee themselves is the victim. And so, a lot of times, managers have a tendency to have a maybe hyper focus on privacy, and employees may have a tendency to have a hyper focus on privacy. So, there's a balancing act there. Okay. So, if the employee is going to be gone really for any reason other than a planned vacation, it is the manager's obligation to ask, to say, hey, why are you out? Or why do you need to be gone? Get those initial facts as to why the employee needs to be absent. If the employee starts going into a story about being a victim of a crime, you can sit and listen as much as the employee wants to share with you. If the employee just says something like, I was attacked, or I'm having trouble at home, or those types of things, the way you can present it to the employee is to say, I understand this may be a difficult issue and I really want to respect your privacy, but there are also some protections that are in place for employees who are victims of crime or domestic abuse or anything to that effect. So if you give me the information about the reason for your absence, just at a high level, we can make sure that you get the protections that are available to you. A lot of times too, employees will say, I don't want to leave. I don't want to classify it as a leave. I don't want to take a leave for some reason, because they don't really understand that a leave, the definition of the leave is really job protection. It means that the employee can be absent and that they can come back to work, and they're not going to be terminated during that time period that they have approved leave. So really explaining that to the employee to help them understand, no, you want to have a leave because that's what protects you. And that's what makes that absence not be in consideration for any attendance violations. So if the employee just says, no, I'm out, then they may be disciplined for attendance issues if their absence is significant. So to explain that to employees, help them understand that leaves of absence are for their protection. That's why they exist. That will help smooth the process. So once the protections have been explained, you want to gather just enough information to determine if sick and safe leave applies. Okay, so if sick leave applies, you're going to talk to HR about a medical situation, medical leave of absence. And if safe leave applies, we're going to look at that SOP 230 to figure out, is there a protection for this employee as a crime victim? So you want to gather just enough information to know that. So you want to make sure the employee feels heard, that they feel safe talking to you, and affirmatively state that you want to protect their privacy, but you need just enough information to know if they may have some protections under Seldon's policies and under the law. And then if you believe it does apply, go to human resources. A lot of times, managers will put that burden on the employee to say, hey, you should contact human resources because they're a little nervous about privacy violation. They don't want to get involved to a certain extent. But sometimes what happens is that the employee then doesn't do that. So you as the manager want to make sure that you contact human resources and make sure that the leave is processed as it needs to be. That's all we have today. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.